I'll wait 10 seconds and then proceed. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are connecting from. ISSUP Kenya is delighted and honored to host this July webinar, which is part of the Stigma series being hosted by various chapters of ISSUP globally. As part of that global partnership, we are being moderated today by Roger Wyman of ISSUP South Africa, who will shortly introduce our speakers. As always, we encourage those of us who have not yet done so to consider joining your local chapter of ISSUP for information, networking, and training in all matters DDR. Over to you, Roger.
Thank you, Albert, and a very warm welcome to everybody who is attending today. As Albert says, this is session 3 in the ongoing series, ongoing collaborative webinar series by ISSUP South Africa, ISSUP Kenya, ISSUP Uganda, and ISSUP UK. And we're talking about substance use disorder and the stigma related to that disorder. Just a little bit of a housekeeping before we get started. For those of you who are attending for the first time, please feel free to post any questions that you have in the question box that you will see on the right-hand side of your screen. We will have a period towards the end of the webinar where we will be able to answer questions that have been posted. As always, please note that this webinar is provided for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical or treatment advice. The views presented here are those of the speaker and not necessarily those of ISSUP. Finally, just before I introduce our first speaker, please remember that this webinar will be recorded and posted on the ISSUP YouTube channel for those of you who would like to go back for future reference. So I'm delighted to introduce Ms. Musisi. She is a clinical services coordinator at the Retreat Limited. Ms. Musisi is an international certified addiction professional with over 15 years experience in running inpatient rehabilitation programs. She has a keen interest on the nexus between substance use disorder and other mental disorders and the importance of a collaborative approach in client management for effective outcomes. She is a member and the secretary of Women in Mental Health Intervention and Treatment, an organization that is dedicated to empowering women leaders in mental health intervention, substance use disorder, and behavior management. Mercy, we look forward to your presentation and thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who is listening to me, tuned in from wherever you are. Welcome to today's webinar. As Rogers has said, my name is Mercy. I will be taking you through the first part of today's topic, which is on women, religion, use disorder, stigma. I hope you can be able to see my screen.
Not currently. I'm going to send you the notification again if that's okay.
All right.
Yes, now we can see it. Great.
All right. Okay. as I was saying that today topic we are looking at women, religion, and substance use disorder, the stigma that comes with women who are using substances and are part of religious groupings. So today we'll be looking at the dynamics that are there. We'll be looking at the whole topic. What is it about? We'll be looking at what the topic is about. We'll also look at the different presentation of stigma and its impact on women with substance use disorder. We'll later look at the concept of addiction. What is addiction? What does addiction mean? Why is it an important conversation for us to have as a society? Then later on, my colleague will look at the other two objectives that I will be looking at the interplay between the three topics we've mentioned. That is the women, the religion, and the substance use disorder stigma. And then we will close by looking at what are the strategies that can be used to counter or to overcome this said stigma. So moving along, I will start by acknowledging that substance use affects both men and women, but there are what we call gender-specific factors that contribute to their development, experience, and consequences. And those are the reasons we need to have this conversation so that we can understand why is it that for the woman, this is a special population that we need to look at this topic exclusively. Then we'll also be looking at women often are said to face unique challenges which shape their patterns of use. And some of the contributing factors are their physiological differences and hormonal influences, then the societal expectations and cultural norms. And I will elaborate further on this as we continue. So sorry, I'm just a minute. So religious beliefs and practices can influence how substance use disorder are perceived within a community, and if a community is not very careful, this can perpetuate a stigma, and we'll see that towards the end of this presentation how this is so. Then we are saying that there's an interplay between gender, religious beliefs, and cultural expectations, and that can significantly influence a woman's perception of substance use, their treatment-seeking behavior, and the stigma she may encounter. And some of these specific challenges that I am mentioning or talking about are as highlighted below. One of the things we will see is that are specific to women is the issue of the biological and physiological differences, whereby we are saying women generally will experience the effects of substances differently. They will experience the effects of substances differently than men due to their physiological differences. They are more vulnerable to the negative consequences of substance abuse, such as liver damage and cardiovascular problems, and can develop addiction more faster or quickly than their counterparts. Then number two, we are saying the other specific matter or challenge that is to women is the issue of gender-based violence. When women women with substance use disorders often face a higher risk of experiencing gender-based violence, including domestic violence, sexual assault, and exploitation. Substance use can make women more vulnerable to victimization and the trauma resulting from violence can further perpetuate their substance use. And this has been a common phenomenon when we sit down with women with substance use disorder. It is a vicious circle that they were using, then violence came, and they now resorted to use as a coping mechanism, and again, due to fear of who to talk to, where to go, what kind of help they can ask, or who can they ask help from, perpetuated. So they ended up using more of the substances to cope or to manage or to numb whatever emotions or feelings they're going through. Then number three, we with something that you again will come close to number 1 and 2 is the stigma and shame. Women with substance use disorders often face significant stigma and shame, which can be more pronounced than for men. Societal expectations for women as caregivers and nurturers can lead to judgment and condemnation, where they are seen as deviating from these roles due to their substance use. And as a result, we find that women might take even longer for them to seek help. They will shy away from seeking help. They will continue wallowing in such states, which again predisposes them to other complications, which is what we are calling co-occurring mental health issues. Co-occurring health mental issues, we are basically saying women with substance use disorder will often have or co-occur with other mental conditions like depression, anxiety, PTSD, that is post-traumatic stress disorders, and because of some of these conditions, this underlying condition will only complicate their substance use disorder and vice versa. So you find that this again, the two of them predisposes the person to other medical conditions or physical conditions like hypertension and such. So it is important for us to see these specific challenges that we are talking about under this particular topic. Then the other one is what we're calling barriers to treatment. We have seen that women may encounter unique barriers or challenges to accessing treatment for substance use disorder, and these barriers can include financial constraints, lack of child care or family support, fear of legal or social consequences, and concerns about losing custody of their children. Additionally, we find that some women may hesitate to seek help due to the fear of judgment from their religious or cultural communities. Pregnancy and motherhood, again, a very important aspect, whereby we are saying that women who are in this category and are using substances, again, poses a danger to them and the unborn child, and women will struggle to face the unique challenges related to the prenatal care, potential legal repercussions, and the fear of losing the custody of their child. So, and in addition to just that, is that access to specialized treatment programs for women in this category, it is lacking in most places, and what is there again might not be very sufficient to cater for their needs at that particular time. Then the last one is lack of gender-specific treatment. If you look when you look at the history, traditionally addiction treatment programs were designed for men. The needs and the experiences were meant for men, so which overlooks the needs of women. So it's an important aspect to also have this at the back of our minds, that we need to ask ourselves, what are these unique unique challenges by women, and some of them is what I am already they are discussing. So as we continue with this webinar, as we continue with these conversations, for us who are out here, we might want to ask ourselves these important questions and see how can we intervene to make the treatment programs very gender specific, because we can see that women will have different needs, which are, for some of them would be issues to do probably with trauma informed care. It could be matters to do with children or child care support. It could be matters to deal with the societal and cultural factors that contribute to their substance abuse. There is also the issue of empowerment and the domestic violence among many others. So these are matters that we can pay attention to.
Sorry to interrupt, Mercy. Your screen sharing was accidentally stopped, so I'm going to send you the notification again. If you could possibly just click share my screen again, we'll be able to see your slides once more. Thank you.
I am up now?
Yes, thank you so much.
See now? Okay. So I was talking about the specific challenges by women, and as I highlighted, those are some of the key areas that I felt that were very specific to women, and that they give us some direction or pointers on areas that we can look into. I don't know what has happened to. Oh, now it's okay. So as we talk about the issue of the specific challenges faced by women, it's also important to look at the prevalence of women who are using substances, and when, according to the last couple of years, it is noted that the prevalence of substance use among women has increased globally, and the gender gap has been narrowing, and women are more likely to engage in substance use, including alcohol, prescription drugs, and illicit substances. The specific prevalence rates vary across the countries and substances of abuse. But again, it is important to acknowledge that we don't really have much of gender-specific data. When you look at the data, most of it is either for men or for the youth. So again, that is a gap. And for those of us who are in research, this is an area probably we can pick up on. What I was able to find out, to lay my hands on, was that research that was done in 2021, whereby it showed 26.6 million females aged between 18 or older reported to have been using illicit drugs in the past 12 months. Then SAMHSA seems to indicate the leading drug of abuse is alcohol, tobacco products, and cannabis respectively. And it went further to highlight that, or to note that cannabis use had risen by 13% since 2017. Then there were other emerging trends among women that indicated increase in nicotine vaping, especially among women of age between 12 and 24. Then there was also increase in tobacco products, use of tobacco products between the ages of 26 and above. For those of I looked at my country, and there is a statistics that were put out there recently about women with substance use in Kenya 2022, and the report indicated that 6.25% of the female populations are currently using at least one substance of abuse. And it further explained that 5% of the female population are currently using alcohol, which translates to about 80% of the female population under the scope that was highlighted. So that tells us that globally is being indicated that the gap is narrowing. this is some of the information I was able to get that can help us see why some of us, or those of us who are in research, might want to further this, and we get proper statistics, and we know with proper data, it will inform or will help with policies and programs, implementations, and etc. So understanding stigma and discrimination. So stigma and discrimination surrounding addiction are significant issues that impact individuals who are struggling with substance abuse disorders. These negative attitudes and behaviors can be directed towards people with addiction, their families, and even towards the individuals themselves. You will find that the negative attitudes is not just to the person. The stigma and discrimination can overflow to the family and the community they are coming from. So stigma refers to the negative attitudes and beliefs and stereotypes associated with a particular condition. So in this context of addiction, we are saying it involves societal disapproval and judgment towards individuals who use drugs or struggle with substance abuse. And while at it, we are looking at discrimination, whereby we are saying discrimination is when someone treats you in a negative way due to your mental illness. Individuals with addiction may face discrimination in various areas of their lives, including employment, housing, education, and healthcare. And I will be talking about this later on. Understanding addiction, because we've kept talking about substance use disorder all along. So we need to just quickly look at what exactly is addiction, because there are a lot of myths and misconceptions out here, and that is one of the reasons why there is discrimination and stigma, because people do not really understand what this is. So understanding addiction we look at it as a complex health issue, and it and when we understand it as a health issue, it becomes easier for people to see what needs to be done to support these individuals. So it will require a lot of compassionate and evidence-based approach to acknowledge that acknowledges the multifaceted nature of addiction and support the individuals in their journey towards recovery. So what is addiction? Addiction, we are saying, is a chronic brain disorder characterized by compulsive drug use despite the negative consequences. And that is why we'll find sometimes we keep insisting, why are you doing this? Why are you still using drugs? Look at what has happened. You've lost your house, you've lost your family, you've lost your promotion. But you see, these negative consequences are not able to stop this individual, because the whole matter is complex. It is not as simple as we want to let them see what they have lost. And that is why when we appreciate that, we are able to look at now what are the other ways of, or the scientifically proven ways of helping the individual. So what are the key features of addiction? One of the key features when we look at addiction is compulsion. People with addiction will experience the intense urge to or what we call compulsion to engage in the addictive substance or behavior. Because again, besides although for this particular webinar we are looking at substance use disorder specifically, but we know there are other addictive behaviors like gambling, sex addiction, workaholics, and all that. So we are saying that this person, there's that intense urge that pushes them to do this, to consume, despite the negative consequences, despite them knowing that last time I did this and I was involved in a road accident. The last time I did this, I lost my job. The last time I did this and that happened. So that is what we are looking at. Number one, the loss of control. Compassion, that is compassion number one. Number two, we are looking at loss of control. And the loss of control, we are saying this person has difficulties controlling their use, and this is where when you sit down with some of when you sit down with someone with substance use disorder and engage them, they will tell you. In fact, they will tell you they even carried exact amount to buy. Probably they just wanted to buy one bottle or 1 ounce, whatever it is that you use. They just wanted to a specific amount, but they will tell you when they started, they do not know what happened. They even had now to put to pawn their phone, but to sell their personal belongings to continue using, and that is what we are calling loss of control. And sometimes you will hear some of them telling you they have really tried to cut down on them by themselves, but they find themselves doing what? Coming back to the using, after a while they're able to do it for a very short period, then they're back to it full blown again. Number 3 is the negative consequences that I've talked about, the aftermath, what we consider they come along with the using, and I've kept repeating issues with problems at work, at school, finances, legal, and health challenges, because some of them will be involved in road accidents, will have they will just trigger other medical conditions in the process. Then there's number 4, which we're calling cravings. Craving, that is another key component in addiction, and this craving is not is not what we most of us call cravings, because I know in my country you will hear people saying they are longing to have barbecued meat or something like that, or have eat fries and all that. But for this, that is very different from what we are looking at when you're talking about cravings. When we're looking at cravings, we are saying this is a physiological matter. There is a change in the brain whereby now this pushes this, intensifies the desire to want the particular substances, and that is why we will need specific ways to counter, to help the person to deal with the said intense desires. And in these cases, that is why we'll hear some of these individuals indicating that they can be triggered by certain environmental cues, and part of the whole processes, and that's why we're saying evidence-based is to help this person to change the patterns of the brain, and there is a whole science behind that, a topic for a different day. Then number 5 is tolerance and withdrawal. Again, we will hear people indicating that as they were trying, when they started using, they could hold their drink pretty well, as they say. They were able to do 1 beer or 2 bottles of beer, but as time went, 2 bottles was not enough to give them the desired highness they were looking for. So what will they do? They continued increasing the amounts to achieve the desired highness. So in this case, we are saying as they continue, the system continues to be tolerant or to be able to manage. So, but that does not mean there are no side effects or negative consequences. Then when they stop, when they want to cut down, when they want to control the use by what we were looking at, the minute they stop, what happens? We'll find some of them struggle by having what you are saying, the side effects, and these side effects is what we are calling withdrawals. Some of them will tell you or report that when they stop, when they don't get their fix, they're going to have headaches, they are going to be sick, they will present with symptoms of malaria. Some of them will say that they had a running stomach, they lost sleep, they had no appetite, they were irritable, and in other cases they will have seizures. So that is what we are calling withdrawal, because the system is communicating that there's what I'm used to operating with, and there has been some disruption, and I am struggling to adjust to the disruption that has been caused. So those are the key, a few, or let me just call a few of the key pointers to what addiction is. Although there are many others, those are just a few, I just mentioned a few. Then we can quickly look at the factors that contribute to addiction, and we are saying that there's no one particular factor that we can say this is the reason, because you'll find that sometimes the genetic predisposition will play a role. The person has the biological presentation of this person is susceptible to these addictive tendencies. So when the genes or the genetic or biological presentation is like that, then they find themselves in an environment whereby the environment there's easy accessibility of substances of abuse. Then there's what we call the societal factors, whereby people have normalized drinking on certain days of the week. So and we find that people saying Fridays or Saturdays are days for drinking or hooking up with friends and all that. So you find that when the individual vulnerability, we are looking at coping mechanisms, the person's abilities. What skills does this person have to deal with adversity, to deal with challenges? So you find that when you combine these four, it makes it easier, a fertile ground for this person to do what? To find themselves in addiction. So for this case, when you look at the women that we are talking about, if there already is a predisposition, then this person is in an environment and the society is encouraging, or it is not conducive. They are having there's a lot of probably gender-based violence. There's too much expectation. They've been left on their own, or they feel they've been left on their own to carry out or to run the family, and they feel they're not being supported. Because of some of these things, we'll find that becomes easier for them to turn to alcohol and other drugs as a way of coping, because probably when it comes to the individual abilities or skills, probably there's a small gap or something that now these four, when they are present, becomes easier, as I've said, to do what, to contribute to addiction. I had mentioned that earlier on that when we're looking at the withdrawals and tolerance, is because we are saying that these are things that involves the brain, whereby when people start using substances, the brain changes. The reward system, the motivation system of the brain changes. The chemicals of the brain, there's imbalancement, and because of this, it becomes easier to do what, to have people ending up with the things we've talked about, the cravings, the tolerance, the withdrawal, and at the end of the day, we find that they will continue wanting to use to experience the pleasure, or to run away from, or to numb the feelings they want to numb. But over time, you find that sometimes it gets to a point, it stops being serving that particular purpose, and the person still continues to use, because now the addiction has taken over. The progression of addiction, we are saying that in most times where people will, especially with the younger generation, it will start with experimentation, then we'll move to regular use, then abuse, and eventually addiction. But we are also cognizant that not every person who uses substances will end up being addicted. Sorry. There are certain risk factors to addiction, despite the four that I mentioned. Those were just factors that we said that can, if you look at what I had mentioned, we are saying these are just factors that can play a role in the development of addiction. But we are saying there are people, you can check yourself and see, am I at a risk of developing addiction? And one of the things to look at is, am I coming from a family where there's history of addiction? And it does not have to be alcohol. Any form of addiction, we are saying, if you're coming from a history from a family where there's history of addiction, we are saying you have a higher chance of also developing addiction. Again, early exposure to substances. We have seen that even with the WHO 2023 report, that was a drug report, you can see that we are seeing a younger generation, or younger people getting into substance use, and one of the substances that is highly used by the younger population we are seeing is marijuana. And again, it goes back to the issues of attitudes. How do we view marijuana as a society? Then there's the other issue when we say early exposure. Remember, we talked about the brain and the chemicals of the brain. So the earlier someone starts, the brain one is not fully developed. It is in the process of developing. Then we introduce substances that are going to the brain, and they're going to alter or change the chemistry of the brain. That makes the person more susceptible to developing a mental condition. Yeah, and addiction is one of the mental condition in this case. Then there's the history of trauma and advanced childhood experiences. Again, people who've been in traumatic situations over and over, children who've been brought up in families or in societies where they've had to live or to deal with adverse experiences. We are saying they are susceptible, they are at a higher risk of doing what? Of developing addiction. Then if there's already a mental health disorder, if you already have a mental health disorder, e.g., for example, depression, bipolar, etc., if you already have such, we are saying you are more like, when you get into substance use, it is easier for the brain to get hooked to the substances, or to find yourself being addicted to, compared to someone who didn't have a mental disorder. Then we are saying that social factors like peer pressure, we know they've played a big role in pushing people into substances. If you look at personally, for the years I've worked in this field, where most of the people, you ask them, how did you start using? And a good number of them will keep coming back to peer influence plus curiosity. Then lastly, we are saying availability of drugs that are easily available to the community. It makes it easier for people to try them out, to use them, and again, that increases the chances of developing the addiction. So so the other part I'd mentioned that we would want to look at is the impact of substance use stigma on women. Impact of substance use stigma on women. And one of the number one impact is double stigma. So when we look at women, we are saying women with substance use disorders often face a double stigma due to both their gender and their addiction. They may encounter societal judgment and negative stereotypes related to women and addiction, leading to increased shame and isolation. And this, again, this increased shame and isolation only perpetuates their use. And as it perpetuates their use, again, it interferes with what we are saying, the need to seek help. Number two is the barriers to seeking help. And we are saying stigma can create a significant barrier, and it can interfere with treatment entry, retention, and completion. And I personally, in the field I've had a number of times women clients asking, who else knows that I'm going in for treatment? And they will keep asking their significant others, who have you told? You should not tell this, you should not tell this. Why? Because they are afraid of the stigma that might come with them being known that they're seeking such kind of services. And sometimes you'll find, because of that fear, we are saying they might even pull out from treatment if they have begun the treatment journey and they get to know certain people they didn't want to know them to know that this is happening, they will pull out. Then we are saying and the reason this is happening is because of what you have said, stigmatizing attitudes and the fear of judgment, societal repercussions, and the potential loss of custody of children, and deter women and from seeking for support, resulting in delayed and inadequate treatment. And another important aspect to remember under this particular point is that, remember I mentioned earlier on, there's the aspect of of domestic violence. And by the time, sometimes because of the domestic and the substance use, separation has happened. And you will find that some of the women will fear to seek help or to go in for treatment because they're afraid the minute their partner, the father to their children, gets to know that they're in treatment, it will give the person an upper arm to contest or to fight them in court for the custody of children. So because of that, they will prefer they continue doing what? Managing the situation as it is. Although again, we know, remember we've talked about advanced childhood experiences. So what does this again, how does this affect the children if left unmanaged? Then there's the limited treatment options. I had talked about this when I talked about the gender-specific treatment options. We find that for a very long time, or the designs of treatment programs, most of them are designed for men. So you find that there is a gap when it comes to addressing matters to do with women and their needs. And one of the things we are looking at is what you are saying, the child care, the child support. You find that even when they are using it, they will be able to still manage a few things here and there, but when now the treatment options that are there are more sort of cutting them off from their children or the family, it becomes a bit of a challenge for them to undertake the treatment. One. Number two, the other thing under this that poses a challenge is when they are put with men, and some of the men that are, or some of the men in the treatment program, where the feelings and emotions and all these are still raw, the trauma is still raw, some of the men might make statements or just the general presentation that trigger their traumatic experiences. You find that becomes of a challenge to be able to manage this individual in such a setup, and that is why we're saying it is important to be able to come up with gender-specific treatment options for women. Then there's the maternal stigma. Women who are mothers and struggling with substance use disorder often face heightened stigma. They may be judged as unfit parents, leading to child welfare interventions, custody issues, and the fear of losing custody of their children. We will do what? They will hide or not seek treatment, or even continue using in hiding in most of the time. Number 5 is the issue of housing and social exclusion. Again, because of the discrimination that comes with substance use, we are saying that it can extend to housing, whereby you find that landlords might refuse to rent a woman with addiction history, or housing policies that specifically target those in recovery. You will hear some of them saying they wanted to take their children they wanted to rent a particular house probably for business or for stay, but they are told, because it is known that you have a history of substance use, we cannot rent you this particular house or business place. And most of the time they are saying is that you will bring shame to the neighborhood, you bring shame to the apartments and affect the other businesses. And you see now this social exclusion, again, we are saying will also do what? Continue perpetuating the substance use. Then employment and education, again, due to this discrimination, we are saying that women with substance use disorder, again, are at a risk of losing employment opportunities, promotion, educational prospects, because of what? Their history in addiction. So they are viewed as unstable and people who cannot be trusted to be able to carry the vision of the employer and etc. Even when the business is theirs, you will find that interacting or giving them employment or giving them business opportunities, again, it is shunned because there is that fear that the person might not deliver, might not do a good job, and as such, it only leaves the person stigmatized or feeling stigmatized and excluded from social activities. Then there's the criminalization and legal consequences. Again, when someone already has a history of substance use disorder, again, it is easily believable for them, even if it is not, they've not actually even done the crime, they are suspects. They just suspects by the fact that they have a history of substance use. Worse off, if they are substance of abuse, is what we are calling is illicit drugs. So you find that sometimes even the punitive approaches are the sentencing or the legal interventions sometimes can be very punitive, just because they already are known to be drug users. Then the lack of empathy and support, again, has played a big role, and that has impacted negatively women with substance use disorder, whereby we are saying that they are isolated, they are misunderstood, there's no compassion, and this lack of compassion can perpetuate feelings of isolation and hinder recovery. So access to such as childcare, affordable housing, and all that becomes an issue for women with substance use disorder, and because they are not allowed or they are not able to access these services, it becomes difficult for them to enter treatment or retain or complete treatment because of this lack of support. Then there's the victim blaming. Victim blaming, we're saying the society may unfairly perceive women, may unfairly perceive women as responsible for their condition, and as such blame them for whatever it is, without looking at what could have contributed to their situation. And as I've been talking, I think I've been able to highlight that there are many factors that come to play. But in this case, we are saying that will not be looked at. So the woman will just be blamed for whatever it is that is going on. So there will be, their addiction is what will be seen, and it is what will be focused on, without paying attention to what could be behind the addiction, what has pushed the person into using or in finding themselves in the situations they are in. Then the last one, it is self-blame or self-victimization, not self-blame. Self-blame.
Mercy, are you there?
Yes, Mercy, we can see your screen.
Mercy, are you there? Can you hear us? I don't think we can hear you at the moment. Are you able to mute and then unmute your microphone just to see if that resolves the issue? Can you hear us? I don't think that we can hear you, unfortunately.
Well, I think let's move on while we wait for Mercy to restore herself. What a phenomenally interesting presentation you gave us, Mercy. Thank you so much, and apologies for the technical issues towards the end, but really interesting presentation and a lot of really interesting questions that have come through that I am going to pose in a little while. But while we wait for Mercy, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, and that is Beryl Achieng Ogutu. She is the co-founder and director of New Dawn Treatment and Rehabilitation Center, and she's also the clinical supervisor there. Beryl is a dedicated and experienced international certified addiction professional with over 14 years experience in inpatient rehabilitation treatment. Her passion lies in helping individuals who suffer from substance use disorders, particularly women, as she views them as a special needs group that requires specific attention. Beyond her work in the field of addiction, Beryl is also an associate pastor at World Reconciliation Ministries. This role has provided her with a unique platform to educate society about the intersection of religion and spirituality in relation to individuals struggling with addiction. She firmly believes in the power of faith to facilitate healing and recovery. She is also an active member of Women in Mental Health Intervention and Treatment, a group focused on advocating for and supporting women who face mental health challenges, thus combating the stigma they often face. Beryl, very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us to delve into this important topic that is very important to our society, the intersection between women, religion, substance use disorders, and stigma. Throughout history, religion has played a very significant role in shaping societal norms and perception. Unfortunately, religious beliefs can also contribute to stigma and individuals facing substance use disorders. Please share my slides. My next slide. Today, I am aimed to shed light on how religious beliefs can instigate stigma, surrounding women and substance use disorders, and more importantly, explore strategies to overcome this. Please move to my next slide. Moral judgment. Most religions have moral codes and behaviors that they have to adhere to be considered part of the religion. You will find that religion is defined to as the belief or the devotion to religious faith or observance. There's a certain way people behave. There's a certain way people are required to carry themselves out. And substance use is deemed morally wrong or sinful based on most of the teachings of the religious communities we have out here. These religious doctrines often highlight the importance of self-control, moderation, and avoidance of certain substances such as alcohol. Women are often held at a higher moral code and purity, which makes them making them more likely to face judgment and stigma for their action. Remember, women are considered to be homemakers. They are considered to be the ones who are supposed to keep the children disciplined. They're the ones who are supposed to be strong, according to many cultures. So when they engage in substance use, they are held at they are judged harsher than men. Stigma can manifest in various ways, such as social ostracization, discrimination, or even violence. You'll find that when you find women using substances, it is not viewed as the same as the way men are viewed when they use substances. So you will find as they are judged, there will some of them will be alienated from their families, they will be alienated from their communities, and some of them can also be cast out or excommunicated completely. You will find that women who engage in such kind of behaviors find themselves separating themselves because of the stigma that they face because of being substance users. Kindly move to the next slide. Belief. In the context of women, religion, and stigma, some of the beliefs that are in the religious community sometimes lead to judgment, condemnation, and sometimes alienation. For example, you reap what you sow, or what bad things happen to those who deserve it. We've had it so many times. So when you have such kind of beliefs, it can contribute to stigma to individuals, especially to women who are suffering from substance use disorder. The stigmatizing viewpoint often fails to recognize the complex factors that contribute to substance use disorders, just as Musisi had said, which includes genetical predisposition, mental health, trauma, environmental factors, social factors, and spiritual factors. It is also very essential for us to emphasize that substance use disorder is a complex medical condition. It is not solely an issue of choice and willpower. Kindly move to the next slide. Lack of compassion. Certain religious teaching may prioritize punishment or consequences for perceived wrongdoings without emphasizing compassion and understanding. You will find within various religious institutions, there are more established standards and expectations that members are expected to follow. Adhering to this standard is seen as spiritual growth or maturity. When you don't adhere to this standard, most of them are punished, and we can say punishment in the sort of people being given the cold shoulder or people being alienated from the religious community. However, in some cases, the emphasis of punishment or consequences for not meeting these standards can overshadow the importance of compassion and understanding. The lack of compassion can significantly contribute to stigma of women, particularly when it comes to sensitive issues such as mental health. Kindly move to the next slide. exclusivism. It refers to a belief system or ideology that promotes the exclusivity, where a select group has priority over others. In some religious communities, there may be a strong sense of identity or belief. There are people who have the right path of salvation because of how they live. There are people who are more spiritually fulfilled. There are people who are, we have had encounters of people saying that they are on the right path, and others are failing to do what they're meant to do spiritually. So you will find there is that us versus them mentality. The belief that can lead to an exclusionary mindset, where those who deviate from prescribed religious norms, including individuals struggling with substance use disorders, are seen as morally inferior or outside the favored group. So you can just imagine for women how bad it can be. As a result, women with substance use disorders may face judgment, rejection, and isolation within religious communities. We have heard of members being excommunicated because their substance use, they suffer from substance use disorders. We have heard of women being completely separated from their family and children, and that is traumatizing because they suffer from a mental illness. Kindly move to the next slide. Lack of education. Lack of education can perpetuate misconceptions, fear, and stigma towards women who are facing these challenges. The Bible says that my people perish because of lack of knowledge. Knowledge is very important. So religious communities often play the significant role in shaping the attitudes and beliefs of their members. Most of the people tend to get their belief system, rely on their belief system based on their religion. However, if there's lack of education and adequate information about SUD, harmful stereotypes and stigmatizing attitudes can prevail. We have heard of people being called demon-possessed because they are schizophrenic. We have seen people being completely locked up in places because they have started hearing and seeing things. And on the other side, we have seen people who are schizophrenic being called prophets. So you can find that these harmful stereotypes can lead to stigmatizing attitudes. So you can move to the next slide. So I'm going to discuss the strategies to overcome stigma, and I'm going to begin with education and awareness, which is very important, and that's what we are doing here. So it is essential for religious communities to promote accurate information. It is important for them to provide information about substance use disorders, addiction science, and the factors that contribute to the development of addiction. Most people don't know about substance use disorders. They don't know the causes of substance use disorders. They don't even know the symptoms. They don't know that there are people, that their loved ones, there are people who are in their religious communities who are suffering from substance use disorders. So when you educate them and they are aware, they are able to, one, remove that stigmatizing the stigma that involves it, and also to help them. So providing information on the biological, psychological, and social aspect of addiction can help dispel myths and misconceptions and foster empathy and understanding. There are many myths and misconceptions. One of them is that alcoholics are once you become an alcoholic, it is untreatable, that you will die an alcoholic. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. That is a stereotype and a myth that is out there. So when you provide that information and you and you tell people that substance use disorder is treatable, then you are able to foster that empathy and understanding. Religious leaders can also take the initiative to educate themselves and the communities. It is very important for them to know about treating substance use disorders as a medical condition rather than a moral failing. Kindly move to the next slide. Language and communication. Language and communication play a crucial role in overcoming stigma related to women, religion, and substance use disorders. So these strategies and approaches, we can create a more inclusive and supportive environment that encourages understanding and empathy. How can we do that? By using person-first language. We should stop using faces faces or labeling people with substance use disorders as alcoholic or drunkards or junkies. We can, for instance, use a face like a woman with substance use disorder. Number 2 is non-judgmental and non-stigmatizing terminology. Avoid using languages that attaches blame, shame, or moral judgment to women with substance use disorders. Focus on neutral and compassionate terms that emphasize the medical nature of addiction rather than the personal failings. Can move to the next slide, please. A little bit, just move back to the next slide so that I can just finish up with the normalizing the conversation. That is very important. By encouraging open and respectful dialogue, you will find it very hard to hear people discussing about certain issues in the religious communities and even in the families. So creating that environment, that opening that conversation, that respectful dialogue, it can create an environment where a woman can feel safe to share the experiences and seek support. Normalizing the conversation around substance use disorders can break the barriers and reduce stigma. Then there's the sharing of personal stories, which is very powerful. It can have a very powerful impact in combating stigma, because by sharing personal stories of recovery, resilience, and the challenges faced by women with substance use disorders, religious communities can foster empathy, raise awareness, and promote understanding, acceptance, and solidarity. Individuals can humanize the experience of those affected by addiction and challenge stigmatizing stereotypes. Collaborative partnership, I will not touch on that. I will look at it as we move ahead when we are dealing with it as a strategy to overcome stigma. Kindly let's move to the next slide. Media representation. So media, very powerful. Media representation can play a vital role in combating stigma by promoting accurate and compassionate portrayals, and can challenge the misconceptions, broaden understanding, and humanize the experience of people and women struggling with addiction. Here are some of the strategies of utilizing media representation in combating stigma. We have highlighting resilience in recovery. Media representation should emphasize that recovery is possible and there is hope. There is showcasing diversity. Representing diverse experiences of women with substance use disorders is crucial in combating stigma. This includes factors such as race, age, and culture, religion, social economic background. It can really help in helping to dismantle the stereotypes. When somebody comes out and says that I am a substance user, I suffer from substance use disorder, and I come from this culture, And if the culture, most of the times you'll find that most women will not come out because they are quite conservative. But if somebody can come up and share their personal story of their recovery, of the way they found help, then women can be able to break from that barrier of culture and seek help, and it will be able to deal with the stigma. There's accountability and responsible reporting. This is holding the media accountable to accurate and responsible reporting on substance use, especially in women. And I will repeat, holding the media accountable, because we've had instances of where women have come out and shared their stories, but because certain media houses want to make a selling out of their stories, they will somehow make a portrayal that will cause the person's story to end up being stigmatizing to the person. So collaborating with experts, collaborating with addiction specialists, mental health professionals, and advocacy organizations can ensure that media representations are accurate, sensitive, and well-informed. We have seen that so much in our local TV stations when we have days where the issues of mental health or mental health awareness month, they can invite mental health specialists to be able to shed light, even to create awareness on substance use, especially in women, which can help in challenging stigma. Can move to the next slide, please. Support and empathy. By fostering a culture of support and empathy within religious communities, we can create an environment that challenges stigma, promotes understanding, and encourages healing. Some of the ways of utilizing this support and empathy is through education and awareness. I think I've talked about that. It is very important for us to continue educating the communities, the religious communities, about mental health and substance use. You can do this by
Mercy, can you just finish that, those last few slides? It looks like she's offline.
I think she's gone offline. So we are looking at the strategies, and she was talking about support and empathy, whereby she had looked at education and awareness and peer support. So under counseling and pastoral care, we believe that especially in certain communities, the pastors and the religious leaders have a big role to play. So them getting being trained on matters to do with substance use disorders among women, and just in general can play a big role in supporting this whole conversation. Then we are saying that we can have support groups, and we want to thank certain communities all over. We've seen there are certain communities or religious communities that have allowed these support groups, that is like, for example, Alcoholic Anonymous, Narcotic Anonymous, to happen in their premises. So if we can have other religious communities also opening their doors to such kind of supports and supporting people to have such support groups in their premises will be a good thing. Then addressing the intersectionality, something that I was I think before I got disconnected, I was to talk about the intersectionality, whereby we are saying that because of the the different dynamics that will come to play in terms of age, socioeconomic and socioeconomic matters, status and all that, education levels and all that. If we can be able to meet at some point whereby we are able to be more accommodative of everyone that comes to us, to be able to support and empathize and give or lend a helping hand to help them in managing this or address these issues. So we are saying we just need to come together at some point and be able to address this matter. The next slide. Policy and legal reforms. Well, again, for us to be able to do the things we are talking about, we need to have a framework and to have a policy framework and a legal framework that will be able to allow us to operate. So first things first, we are saying we need to put that framework out here, and we will need to create a very supportive legal framework. What we want to see, is it okay? Can the women be, even if they have substance use disorder, should they be discriminated against from getting services they require or they need? Should they be denied access to these medical services or any other kind of services? So we need to have that legal framework out there that looks at the rights of these individuals, so that they are not discriminated against. We will need anti-discrimination laws. I earlier on talked about matters to do with housing, employment, and we are seeing a number of countries are putting together frameworks or laws that are able to allow people with substance use disorder to continue doing what? Being able to continue working, not to be terminated because if they are sick. They are able to be treated just as any other person who has a health or physical ailment is treated. Then we'll also need to look at the aspect of funding and resources. Again, for us to be able to do the most of the things that we have highlighted here, the resources are required. So and for these resources to be available, there needs to be a legal framework, or there needs to be a policy that will be able to allow or to be enable people to contribute or to fundraise for these particular activities. Then continuous training and education on the policy, on the legal, on the laws that are out there. A number of times we will find that most of the clients that come to us, they don't even know what the law says regarding them as persons with substance use disorder or other mental condition for that matter. So you find that it is important to just help continue to creating awareness in terms of training and education. Then incorporating addiction treatment within the religious practices. And again, in my country at least, and I have seen that a number of certain religious groups are open to people discussing matters of addiction within their church services or their religious meetings or group interactions, whereby people are able to talk about and awareness is done. Then the other part under this that is important is monitoring and evaluation. We need to know we need to assess and keep reassessing and evaluating the policies and see if they are working, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be improved, so we just need to have monitoring and evaluation to ensure that the policies that are there, we are adjusted as time goes on to be as effective and serve the interests of the person that it needs to be served. The other slide. Collaboration and partnership. And collaboration and partnership, we are saying that for us to be able to do this, because we started by saying this is a societal issue, and there are so many players at it. So we need to bring all these players together. So we need to share knowledge and resources. People from different stakeholders to come together. We've talked about the media. We've talked about the legal fraternity. We are looking at the criminal justice system. We are looking at the specialist, the addiction specialist. We need to come together and be able to share this knowledge and be able to streamline some of these things together. And that is when, again, we'll be able to create the necessary awareness and campaigns to be able to push this agenda that this is not, we don't need to continue stigmatizing and discriminating persons or women with substance use disorder. We will be able to carry out more of networking and community engagements and be able to help the community be empathetic and support individuals, and even do prevention of some of the issues we are talking about. Then again, offering support to marginalized communities. When we look at intersectionality, marginalized communities do not have access to some of these, the education, the awareness, the services that are required. So we are able to support these communities, because just because they're marginalized, it does not mean they are not experiencing the challenges that we are talking about. It's just that they are not known or openly known. Then advocacy for change, we will continue when we collaborate, when we partner, when we come together, we increase the coverage, and we're able to advocate for change better. Albert?
Olivia, can you move that slide, please?
Then advocacy. Anytime we're talking about stigma and discrimination, advocacy is plays a big role, because advocacy will be able to help us raise the awareness. Will be able to educate, train, and this education and training will be able to challenge the stereotypes that are there. Beryl talked about the several stereotypes that are synonymous with women using substances. So we'll be able to address some of these things. We'll be able to offer the necessary support and where necessary, even review the policies that are out here. Remember, for example, I talked about gender specific programs for substance use programs. So you see, when we do advocacy, we can be able to focus and have policy change on that. And I want to acknowledge that that is already ongoing, and there is a program that is for women only, and there is even training for such for persons that are interested in women only or rather gender specific program. Then we are also talking about when we do advocacy, again, we will be able to help the public understand what is expected of them, what their contribution is, how they can reduce, what they can do to mitigate or to reduce the stigma that is out here. Again, when that is done, the families, they get in the families, the individuals, the community at large gets empowered, and becomes easier for everyone to pull their weight together and be able to do something that is beneficial, or can benefit each and support each other during this whole processes in the event there is substance use disorder among their people. Olivia? So in conclusion, we are saying matters to do with religion, women, religion, and substance use stigma, we need to be able to recognize and address these gender-specific challenges and to develop effective prevention, intervention, and treatment strategies that are tailored to the needs of women with a substance use disorder. It will also require a comprehensive approach that considers the social, cultural, gender specific factors that influence substance use and recovery outcomes, what I was calling intersectionality. So we need to be able to have that comprehensive approach. Then addressing substance use disorder stigma in relation to women requires targeted efforts to combat gender-specific challenges. And that is why we were highlighting these gender-specific challenges so that we can be able to see, and as we continue, we can be able to see why we need to look at the strategies that have been mentioned of combating or overcoming stigma. Olivia? We will also need to create gender-responsive treatment programs, providing comprehensive support services, promoting trauma-informed care, and challenging societal norms and stereotypes that perpetuate stigma. And for us to do this, that is why we talked about the advocacy that we talked about, because for us to be able to look at this, the specific or highlighted areas, we need to come together and partner. So partnership is very important for us to be able to achieve what we are talking about. And lastly, we are saying by recognizing and addressing the unique needs and experiences of women with substance use disorder, we can work towards reducing stigma and improving outcomes for this vulnerable population. So we are saying by recognizing and addressing the unique needs and experiences of women with substance use disorder, we can work towards reducing stigma and improving outcomes for this vulnerable population. And that marks the end of our presentation. We are very sorry for the technical hitches that we have encountered this far, and I hope I was audible enough. I'm having a flu, so I am really trying to manage my voice. Back to you, Rogers.
Thank you so much, Beryl and Mercy. What an interesting topic, and just judging by the questions that we've had posed, it really is a topic that really warrants a lot more investigation and a lot more time spent on this presentation. So again, just a big thank you to Beryl and Mercy. I'm going to ask Beryl if she can possibly just unmute herself. I know she might not be able to be seen, but I'm going to pose one or two questions that have been posted, and just to Mercy and Beryl, that I think, as I said, there's been a lot of questions that I feel, warrant webinars of their own, but there's one in particular that I'd like to pose, and it's a question that was posed, and it says, how can women with substance use disorder be helped so that the issue of stigmatization will not be there? Mercy, any ideas?
Again?
How can women with substance use disorder be helped so that the issue of stigmatization will not be there? We can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry about that. So we are saying that in most cases, women who end up in treatment for SUD will face stigma. They will face stigma, and that is why we talked about empowering the individual as well as the immediate support system to be able to to support the person through the journey. So if the person is able to be comfortable, first of all, with themselves, and probably deal with the self-stigma and these other matters, it becomes easier now to move to also the family and help the family or equip the family to be able to combat the stigma and support the individual. So when there's that force, it becomes much easier for the individual. For those that are employed, again, bringing the employer on board, and helping the employer to embrace and support the person in the process, again, becomes easier. And sometimes you find that they end up even being now champions of mental health or substance use disorder back at their workplaces.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you're basically saying that we need to educate everybody out there and really get the message out that, you know, it's not a moral failing as was seen several years ago. It really is something that we need to bring out into the open and create more awareness and continue talking about.
Yes.
Absolutely, thank you. And Mercy, there was another question that was posed, and it was posed directly to you. And the question was, what is the prevalence rate amongst women in rural areas as opposed to women in urban areas? I know that this is talking about statistics, and you did mention that statistics are very, very rare when it comes to women, but I thought it was an interesting area for us to look at.
Rogers, I agree with you. I really struggled to get data or statistics about women. So when we go into the specific like this, I am not sure, and that's why I said earlier on, like when I was speaking, I said this is a gap. So for those of us who are in research, these are areas that we can tap in.
Absolutely, and you know, even in South Africa, there's a big gap there in terms of the statistics related to women in treatment, but also in relation to the different areas in the country, in terms of exactly what Eric is saying, in terms of the prevalence rate as opposed to urban and rural areas, and relating to substance use in women. So absolutely, I think it is an area that we need to sort of promote as a research area. Across the African region, I think.
True.
Absolutely. There was another very interesting question, and I'm going to mention it, but it's possibly not one that we would be able to answer here, and I think it is something that we would need to possibly look at as a follow-up webinar, because the topic itself is very, very interesting, and it was asking about, I just want to find the specific question. It was asking about the stigma and how do we actually deal with those that assist those individuals that are trans or view themselves as non-binary individuals in relation to substance use and stigma. And I think that this is a very interesting area for us to look at going forward, because there is not much out there. There's not much research that has been done on that particularly in terms of trans women going in for treatment.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very challenging question, because again, we've not really paid much attention, or rather, I don't want to say we've not paid much attention. It's just that probably there's not much exposure in certain parts of the continent. So I might not have the needed response to this. I'm trying to look at how this would be like for them, but I can imagine just being in the LGBTQ community, that already in certain parts of this continent, it's already you're facing discrimination. Now you add substance use to it, I can just see the complexity in it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's it brings us back to what you were saying about the double stigma earlier on. And I mean, one might even go so far as to say a trans woman going into a treatment program might be faced with triple stigma, because there's an extra factor that is involved there.
Yeah, true, true.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. I think, this has really been a fantastically interesting topic. And I want to thank both of our presenters, Musisi and Beryl, for phenomenally interesting presentations. We are really, really pleased that you were able to join us, and thank you to ISSUP Kenya for putting this together. And for those of you who didn't get a chance to pose your questions, I'm hoping that at some point we will be able to get the presenters to respond to those questions. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't joined our ISSUP network as yet, please go ahead and join us. Log onto our website, www.issup.net, and join and find a national chapter close to you. Again, this webinar has been recorded and it will be posted on the ISSUP website and the ISSUP YouTube channel for those of you who would like to go back and revisit this interesting topic. So thank you so much to everybody, and we wish you safe and warm evening ahead. Thank you.